to this lesson on the Medtronic single chamber pacemaker. For those of you who've worked with CCAS for a while, you know that we used to have these as part of the module, one every couple of kits, but now it lives with the PASA module, so you may or may not be pleased to know that we don't routinely take this with us, and hopefully you'd be taking a cardiologist with you if you were going to pick up Dave, who is in the state that you see him in front of you now. This lesson we're just going to go over the checking of the equipment, making sure that it's serviceable, ready for use, and I'll direct you to some useful resources as to how to use the pacemaker in anger. The Medtronic single chamber pacemaker comes in its own box, as I've already said, held in the PASA module. Inside the box we have our two leads, one atrial, the blue lead, and one ventricular, the white lead. Okay, so you need to make sure that you've got both of those. You should also have some spare AA batteries. Unlike the old pacemaker, for those of you who remember it, it's now AA batteries rather than a 9 volt, and the machine itself. To check the Medtronic single chamber pacemaker for use, there isn't actually an official 373 for this item, but there are some checks that we would advise you use before, as I said, using this in anger. You'll notice that it's obviously a plastic box with a plastic screen, so we would recommend going around and checking the integrity of all the plastic and making sure that nothing is going to fall off in use. It now comes with two screens, so you've got a main screen to prevent the turning of the dials, and we also have a smaller little plastic screen underneath which covers the rapid atrial pacing buttons. Give it a once over for any dirt, dust or damage, and have a look at your MDSS sticker on the front, which you'll also notice no longer has a do not use after date. This is because these are now officially consumable items, so if there's a fault with them, they're going to go back to Medtronic and we're likely to get replacements rather than them being serviced with MDSS. Check your battery compartment by pressing the buttons on both sides, and you'll notice that the batteries come out. You should check that your two AA batteries are serviceable with no leaking of any of the fluid inside the battery, and make sure that nothing has become damaged in there and that it all looks nice and clean. Round the back you have a drip stand holder for securing the device as required. It no longer comes with the straps like the old machine, but obviously it's a nice enough, small enough machine that you can attach it into the Aeromed straps as needed. At the top you've got your port for placing in the leads, and we would recommend that you try out both the leads, making sure that you push them in until you hear a click and making sure that you can't remove them. To remove, just push the button on the top and take it out, and check that both of the leads fit and that they don't fall out. Once you've been through the physical checks of the machine, then we would recommend that you go in and switch on the machine to check some internal workings. Switch on using the off and on button, and you'll notice that all the LEDs light up and the LCD display comes on as well. As standard, this doesn't have an internal memory, but as standard it comes on with a rate of 80, an output of 10 and a sensitivity of 2. For those of you who are not used to pacing, then the rate is obviously the heart rate that you would like the patient to achieve. The output is how much electricity you're going to deliver to achieve that rate, and the sensitivity is how much electricity the patient's intrinsic heart rate is achieving to achieve whatever rate they are having at the time. So in order to achieve our goal of getting them into a sensible rate with a good cardiac output, we're going to make adjustments to all three of these dials. So it's sensible to check that the dials work. So we would recommend just turning them left and right just to confirm that the dials actually function and that you don't have any stoppages as you move up and down. So all those dials move nice and freely. It's already flashing pace, obviously. It's not connected to a patient, so we will not be able to demonstrate the sensitivity button, but the video that's linked on the DLE will demonstrate this better for you. Medtronic advise that the battery life on these machines is around 7 days, but that's going to be very dependent on how much electricity you're delivering and at what rate. So you do need to keep a very close eye on the battery indicator. If this has only one bar indicated and it starts to flash red, then that indicates that you have 24 hours of battery use left, and we would recommend that as soon as you see that light, you change the battery. For each new mission, we would recommend that you put new batteries in right from the start, so you know that you have that 7-day window. As part of your check, we would recommend that you confirm that the batteries the internal workings will still continue even if the batteries are ejected. And to do this, you eject the batteries and you'll see that you have a red flashing light. You have 30 seconds now to change those batteries over for new ones and replace them. So this just demonstrates that the machine will continue to work even if the batteries are removed, remembering that you only have 30 seconds. There's also a lock function now, which can be pressed to prevent any changes to the dials. It also prevents you from switching the machine off and on. And this lock function will come on after 60 seconds of no moving of dials or pressing of buttons. The rapid atrial pacing function up here can be enabled by pressing the button, and RAP rate will become available. And you press and hold to deliver, and you'll see the light flashing and delivering that 320. So we would recommend that even if you're not likely to use rapid atrial pacing, you check that it does function. Disable it at the end of the test. Switch the machine off by pressing and holding the off and on button, and return it to its box. To summarise, the Medtronic single chamber pacemaker is now found in the PASA module, not the CCAS module, so we would hope that you would be flying with a cardiologist if you are needing to use one of these. Along with the consumables, which are also held in the PASA module, you would obviously need to make sure that you lift it as a whole kit. If you would like any more information, then it could be found on the DLE, or come and find one of your CCAS instructors with your questions. Thank you.